Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, it's that time again. It's the time again where the spacey sympathizer comes at you with a well-rehearsed introduction to the Triforce podcast featuring Lewis Brinley of the Yogscast.
Hi.
Pyrian Flax, also of the Yogscast.
Hello.
And myself, Sips from the Yogscast. Here I am.
It's rocketing towards Christmas.
Oh, yeah,
guys.
you're right
like,
about that.
At a rate of fucking knots.
Yeah.
Honestly, people are like, tinsel's out, Christmas markets are out, people are buying presents and Christmas decorations. I can't quite believe that it's happening.
Tinsel's out, ass up,
This year
let's do this.
has been
Christmas,
so
motherfuckers.
fast.
Yeah.
I read that I read a thing on Reddit, okay, and I don't know if this is true, but it was basically if time is appearing to go too fast, right? Just start doing something, working towards something every day.
Right.
Like that guy who I saw who went out and like planted a tree every day for like 34
the guy
years.
who ate that Spitfire. Remember that guy? He ate a whole Spitfire. And it must have taken him, he must have eaten like maybe like a tiny piece of metal per day over the course of like 50 years to finally eat that thing.
Well, I guess.
And now he can fly.
No,
You know what's kind of crazy to think, though? Like, in World War II, they were so desperate for resources, they would have hung that guy for eating a Spitfire at the time. But now, in the modern day, he can fucking eat one and nobody gives a shit. Like,
It's the slowest kind of sabotage in history, right?
Yeah.
We believe that German spies are eating our planes very slowly.
At a rate of one small piece of metal per day. I don't know how you digest that, but whatever. I mean, I have problems digesting a banana, which is actual food.
So this guy is the guy who is known as the guy who eats anything, right? He's eaten like bicycles, shopping carts. He ate a TV.
But how? How do you eat a shopping cart? Like that's like I've thrown many shopping carts into creeks in my life, and they don't even bend or anything. Like they're made of like hard shit. Like it's hard to bend up a shopping cart, let alone how would you even start to eat one? Like how do you get the metal soft enough to like, chew it up and stuff? How does it work?
So he's basically drank a lot of mineral oil,
right?
And washed and sort of lubed up his throat, I guess, and like swallowed, like broke up the metal into small bits.
Right. Okay. So it's not a case of just like gnawing on it enough to like chew it.
No, it
break
wouldn't
pieces
dissolve
off.
it.
Okay.
It's like he had a very thick lining, right, of his stomach. And he's dead now, by the way.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised.
And also he had this eating disorder, pica,
shopping cartitis.
People eat like weird stuff. It's a common thing, actually, that people would eat like hard things. It's like, I was watching the Louis Theroux documentary about anorexia, and it's kind of like reverse obesity. Like, well, obviously it is, I guess, but people. It's like people have this just incredible fear of eating. And, man, it was a really good documentary, actually. I've been watching all the Louis Theroux stuff lately.
Yeah, I watched that one, too, the anorexia one, right? It's really, really quite depressing. I hate watching stuff. I know, like, it's a terrible, like, condition to have and stuff, but, man, it's, like, so... It just feels so hopeless, like, the people that have it. Like, did you see that woman who had it for, like, 45 years? She was, like, in her 60s or whatever.
Yeah.
Just, like, her whole life really revolved around
and she was... she had, like, this pile of boiled sweets in her cupboard.
Yeah,
she was
that's right, yeah.
She was like, this little pile of boiled sweets, I suck them for a little bit, then I put them back in the cupboard.
God
and it was, like,
almighty.
so disgusting.
Yeah, but it's all to do with feeling bad, like, feeling like she doesn't deserve things and stuff, and it's awful.
It's really awful, actually. It's really kind of, it's not what you think sometimes. Everyone's different as well, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, there's not, that's the problem. I think that everyone wants everything to be black and white, right?
Yeah.
Certainly, like if you're a doctor or if you're a patient, you want to know that I've either got something or I haven't, or if you want to prescribe medication to someone or have insurance, it has to be you either had something or you haven't. And the problem is that it's 1,000 shades of different. It's everyone's experience with these disorders is different, and so therefore everyone's treatment needs to be different. And sometimes it's very difficult to get that. And So I mean, with anorexia, like I think it's a little bit like all of these things. Like if you meet someone with depression, the automatic response is to just yell at them, just cheer up, just don't be so miserable. Right? You know, if you meet someone with anorexia, you're like, just eat something. You know, you can see why
Do you think
their
people,
family and people get frustrated with them, right?
But that it stems from a selfish place, though, doesn't it? Because when people say stuff like that, it's because they want to feel. They don't want to feel like dragged down by someone, right? Like it's like I think people say that like just be happy, just feel better or whatever because it's like hassle for them. Like this person who's not like feeling well or not happy or whatever, you know what I mean? Like
I think it's a combination of that, and it's also people just can't empathize. If you break a leg, everyone can see that, right? Your fucking leg is broken, there's bone sticking out through the skin. It's like, ooh, that looks nasty. You get the cast on, it's clear that you broke your leg, and you could just say, "Oh yeah, better rest up, get well," you know. But if you say, like, everyone knows people who's had depression. I mean, I know people who've had like severe depression. I've been sad and depressed at points in my life, but because I had something to be depressed about, it was different. But some people are just fucking miserable even when everything should be really good, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to explain that to people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest problem with mental health is not the stigma, but literally the inability of regular people to empathize with something when you're like, but how can you be depressed? You have all this and you have that. And it's very, very, very hard to empathize with something that is not something you can point at, not something that apparently you can even really fix. And it's just like, well, what the fuck do you do? So people just panic and just fucking cheer up, like you said. But it's almost impossible to put yourself in that person's position if you don't suffer from it.
Yeah. I think it's like the OCD thing, you know, when people are saying, oh, it's triggering my OCD or whatever, and people with actual OCD get offended by that, rightfully so, because OCD in itself is like this crippling condition that basically ruins your life.
Yeah,
and like,
there was a guy...
People who get slightly annoyed about things not being symmetrical, like probably don't actually have OCD, or don't have like a terrible life off the back of it, sort of thing. But some of these people that suffer from OCD, like the rituals that they do every day, it just consumes their whole day. Like you're talking about somebody like tapping on a kettle 50 times before turning it on and stuff, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg.
It gets so bad that it's like a really severe OCD sufferer. It is a complete disability, like it 100% is.
But I think that is just to do with the way that people use language, right? You go outside and you're a little bit cold. You say, "Oh, it's freezing out here," or you go to the shop to buy some food. And you're like, "I'm starving." Yeah. Everyone always jumps to like the most extreme
Won't someone
thing,
think
right?
of the hungry Inuit people who are actually starving and freezing? No one's thinking of them, are they?
No, they're like the last thing on my mind when I use that language.
And they have to stack the snow just so for their igloo, and if they mess up, they got to start all over again because they're also OCD sufferers and they're depressed with good cause.
And they're probably eating like sleds and stuff, and like eating igloos, just chewing on them, trying to get them down.
Gaming culture is terrible for all this, though. There's so many terms that are used like in gaming regularly that are potentially super offensive. You know, like calling something cancer, calling something AIDS. I mean, we do it all the time. There used to be it used to be popular to use the word rape, like for your team getting destroyed or whatever and stuff, and like you see that less so now. But
well, even at school though, you know, when I was at school and stuff, it was the word gay. You know, like it was a commonly used word to say that something just was not that
in the
cool.
90s. It was
a bit. Oh, that's a bit gay.
Yeah,
it's like a bit annoying. Like kind of, I don't know, and the problem is that was part of my language as a teenager, and therefore I have to fight against using it now because I know it's not kind of.
You have to battle the resist.
But the same thing with retarded. You know, that's like
fucking sandwich is fucking retarded and gay.
Yeah, and in the 90s, it was so typical. It was used in TV shows and everything. It was almost became like part of like surfer lingo or something.
It was like family radio.
Dude, that shit is retarded. Like I'm pretty sure they said that word multiple times in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. I'm not even joking.
And in TMNT, all the racial slurs they were chucking around was unbelievable. It was disgraceful.
I think people don't like to use mild terms. Like if you're someone who like needs to have all your pencils lined up on your desk, you're probably a bit anal, right?
Yeah.
But people don't want to say, "Oh, I'm really anal today."
Yeah.
Right. They'd rather be like, "Oh, I'm all OCD today." I don't know. But it's appropriatized by its use. You know, so many people refer to themselves, and it's been, you know, if it's said on Hollywood shows and it's said in common parlance on the media that we consume, then that's why it enters the lingo from there. But then again, that common lingo does enter Hollywood, and then it cycles around and becomes this.
But once it becomes
kind of
mainstream, people don't want to say it anymore. That's the thing.
No, that's the
like
thing.
I think if you had Jesus, I don't know, think of a fucking example for yourselves, all right? But if you had that example that's in your mind saying that thing,
Jizz mop.
jizz mop,
Yeah, I find that one a little bit
that
offensive.
would be everywhere, and then people would get sick of jizz
Cum
mop.
dumpster as well is
Cum
pretty
dumpster.
offensive. I don't like that one.
Oh my god, that is pretty
It was-
awful. I mean, I seem to remember seeing that on like a glittery, you know, like child's top or whatever. Show me, and it's like, oh Jesus Christ!
Wasn't one of the My Little Ponies called Cum Dumpster?
And her best friend Jizz mop.
Oh my god.
God.
I'd watch that show if that was the case.
Brony scum.
Me too. God, man.
Sounds like something out of Rick and Morty, though, doesn't it?
It does.
It does,
Just
yeah.
I've got to talk about this guy because I can't stop thinking about him now. This is going back to the OCD stuff, right? When I was growing up, there was a guy in our neighborhood. There was a mental institution, if you like, in our area.
I like how this is. You mean where you lived?
No, I didn't live in it.
I grew up near to a mental institution. This is a story about my friend.
Very near, actually. Yeah. But he was one of the guys that they put back into the community, you know, to live as normal a life as he could, because he wasn't dangerous. He just struggled with this OCD, and it was
He
so
enjoyed
bad.
playing Dota.
He loved it. He eventually joined the Yogscast. He's here today, all the way from Twickenham. No, he would cross the road, and he had to do it in a very specific way. And if he messed up, he had to go all the way back again and start crossing the road again. And I mean, who knows what his ritual was? You know, it was arcane and complicated, and you sort of didn't want to stare, so you couldn't just watch him and learn exactly what he had to do. But my mum worked in a shop around there, and he would come in, and everything had to be just so. And when he was paying, he had to do all this stuff with the money. He had to sort of hand it to you, and take it back, hand it to you, take it back, hand it to you, take it back. Then he had to put it on the counter, line it up in a certain way, put it back in his hand it to you, take it back. And it's like, when he was at the counter, one person would have to just sort of be serving him, and as other customers come up behind, the person serving would just sort of give one of those tiny head shakes, like, no, go to another counter, you know, to try and get served. We're going to be here
I
a while.
love those little cues, actually. I mean, it's something which is kind of, you only see in like board games and real life, like those kind of, you don't, because we play games and we're so virtual all the time, we do miss those kind of subtle, like emotional clues. Like for example, we did the Star Trek VR game. You know, it was great to like have a kind of this. We were working together on the bridge to fly the Enterprise. You know, and like Duncan would say something, or Terps would say something, or do something, and Shin would like turn his head to me, and I would turn my head back, and like, you know, like, do you know what I mean? We would have these like little moments of like physical, like kind of, and that's because we've been playing a lot of board games lately. We've been playing a lot of things, and especially when you're playing like a bluffing game or something like that, there's a lot more of those little nods and winks and stuff. Like when we were playing D&D the other day for Yogs Quest, it was you know, occasionally, you know, P-Flax would give me a wink and I'd be like, oh my god, this is I don't know. It's just I thought I'd mention that because it's certainly something that is worth. It's worth, if you don't play a lot of board games, you should do it, because especially the good ones.
There was a moment where Tom gave you a look like, wrap it up now, like we've finished, sort of thing. And I thought that was like, I saw that look and you saw that look. You guys didn't see that I saw that look, but I knew to shut up at that point, because I knew we were wrapping up the episode. I was like, all right, don't fucking come in here, period. Just keep your big trap shut for a little bit. It's yeah. That's why I think if we did this podcast all in the same room, we wouldn't talk over each other, but it's difficult online, isn't it? Especially.
Yeah, I think we'd give each other better cues and stuff. But I think this does allow us to be more thoughtful. I mean, my eyes sort of glaze over when I'm doing this podcast and kind of just like,
So I've been playing a game recently where...
Sorry, so I took us away from the topic, which was OCD gentleman in the shop, struggling along with his stuff. But, I mean, board games is an interesting one too, right? Like, I've been playing a bunch of different board games lately. I've got a couple. I got Seven Wonders Duel. I got Honshu. I got a bunch of, like, two-player games as well, like Jaipur and stuff like this. And I've really been enjoying just the physical board game playing of recently. And obviously, if you haven't played any of these board games, you should do because they're really good. Just, Christmas is coming up, family coming around. My parents came down and we played some Code Words this weekend.
Really?
Wow.
Which my dad can just about manage, actually, Code Words. My dad's pretty old now.
Yeah.
How old is he again?
He's 81.
Man, how the fuck did your dad have you when he was like in his 50s? That's fucked up.
He didn't.
He fucking did.
Lewis's mum did.
Well, yeah, I know, but he fucking
Well,
helped.
he was 45, 46.
Oh, right,
So,
okay.
yeah, I don't know. My dad's good. I like my dad a lot. He's the kindest soul. He's just a gentle guy. Just a bit. He's turned into a bit of an old man, though. He's getting a bit deaf, and he's starting to sort of turn towards being a bit of an old man. He's still sharp as a tack, though, when he needs to be, and he's very. It's just he's been a very happy man all of his life. I'm not really jealous, I guess, but I'm kind of happy for him that he's had this. He doesn't really need anything. He's quite happy bimbling around at home. Watering the plants, feeding the birds, kind of, going in the garage.
Jesus.
just,
This sounds like my
hammering
life
things.
now.
But
That's the scary
Yeah.
thing. You know what? I do sometimes think, I look at someone like that, your dad is like, maybe, let's say he's like 82 or whatever. That's like twice my age. So I'm literally halfway there. Like, I'm literally halfway.
That's why
to
they
being
call
an
it
old
over
man.
the hill, man. You're
For
like,
real. Like when I think about everything I've done in my life for 41 years, that actually seems like quite a lot of shit. Like a lot of fucking stuff has happened since 1976. I mean, 1976.
Yeah.
That was a long ass time ago.
It was. And think of the last like 10 years specifically of your life. What have you been doing? Playing lots of video games.
But I
Like,
mean, fucking
fuck tons of
1976
video
was
games.
1 year after Vietnam ended.
Yeah.
Right? To put it in historical context, the United States was 200 years old that year. Like, there was a huge celebration. I was too young to remember it. I wasn't living in the States at the time. But, that you look back at the 70s, and it looks like a completely different planet. Like, everybody's skinnier. Everybody's got more hair. It looks completely different.
Yeah.
Everybody's dressed kind of pretty basically. It's like everything looks kind of cheap and shitty in a way compared to now. Everything seems all flashy and fancy.
Well, then the 80s came along and like everything was clunky and beige and shitty looking as well.
Wow, it was all fucking. The hair got bigger, the clothes got weirder, the music got awesomer, and then and now we're here. That's pretty much it. I don't really remember
the 80s
anything.
as well, the drugs got better too. Like you had cocaine and stuff in the 80s.
I mean, and now we got fucking crystal meth and shit.
I know.
Shit! Did you watch that fucking Louis Theroux documentary about the heroin addicts in? I can't remember. I think
I did.
It was
yeah,
Huntington.
I've been
right?
watching all of them. The only one I missed, I think, was the Scientology one. I haven't seen that one yet.
I haven't.
The
I've
recent
only
one.
seen the
his
first one.
Scientology movie. I didn't think it was very good because there was a really good Scientology movie that came out as well.
Apparently,
and
they're
so-
super fucking cagey, and they wouldn't talk to him ever because they sort of know who he is, and they didn't want to look bad or whatever, and they were very aware of.
But in a way, that's interesting on its own. Like that was interesting the way they interacted with him. It was okay.
The
Yeah, it
heroin
wasn't the
one
best thing he's ever
was
Just
really
so
shocking.
fucking
Actually,
depressing.
It
One
was,
in
yeah.
4 babies that are born in that area in Huntington are born addicted to heroin. 1 in 4.
And it's all off the back of prescription drugs that they get hooked on. And when they can no longer get them, then they resort to actually doing heroin, which is like, fuck me.
So
That
bad.
is crazy. That is so crazy.
Talking about drugs, what about all this controversy about loot boxes, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Segue.
Nice segue, yeah.
Because this is a big thing, right? And it's been building up, and it keeps hitting the front page of Reddit. And I think that people, it's funny how the gaming industry, for a start, is very cutting edge, right? Or at least we think it is because we get observed, we get to see it. But just the gaming industry is much more hyper aware of moral kind of things, right? So, for example. I think movies, right? You watch any old movie, and I can't watch a modern Hollywood movie nowadays without seeing ads in it, right? So many movies have like Pepsi ads, Krispy Kreme ads, Dunkin' Donuts, literally in the fucking movies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, if this was video games, could you imagine playing through a fucking, like the AAA game, like Call of Duty, and walking past, like, and the main character's like, hey, I could really do with an ice cold Sprite right now. Look, there's a Sprite machine over here. Let's share a Sprite together. That's kind of like the bullshit. But you do get that in Hollywood movies.
Yeah, like if Mario desperately needed a Snickers bar, it would change everything.
Exactly.
His blood sugar was low. He was just feeling like he was getting angry and annoyed with Princess Peach, and he just needed a pick-me-up. Go for a
I
Snickers.
need a pick-me-up, a Snickers bar.
I'm a feeling mad.
And again, like it would. Anyway, so but I feel like the game devs and also, I mean, EA are largely even included in this. They're still, despite what they appear to be, which is a big conglomerate run by a board of directors, 50-year-olds who pretty much veto bad decisions, they still are making games with youngish people making games. They're hyper aware of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And obviously what they want to do is they just want to make good games. They want to sell as many copies as possible. They want to make as much money as possible. It's capitalism, okay? And obviously capitalism has existed for a long time, and the role of government is to regulate unethical business practice, really. One of the major roles of what governments are supposed to do is clamp down on things that are giving people a negative experience, right?
Yeah.
In terms of for their own health, for their own good, for the good of people. And I think that when these video games prey upon vulnerable people, or whales, let's say, as they call them, that is basically gambling, right?
iOS games are guilty of all this as well. That the whole concept of a whale in these games is like, so what they're trying to say with this is that basically a lot of these games are supported by a small amount of people who spend a large amount of money, right?
And this ties into what we said earlier. It can be more exploitative over people who are depressed or do have mental illness as well. Like it's a very small percent of people, but sometimes they can be very. Well,
I think there's an article today, I think it was on PC Gamer, about Belgium potentially classifying Battlefront 2 and Overwatch as gambling. They're thinking about doing it, and I'm not sure. It kind of is gambling. It has the same addictive nature as gambling, doesn't it? There's that risk.
It's really walking the line
thing, yeah. Where
and this is why it's so popular, though, right? And it's why it's in every game. It's because it's probably over the line.
Yeah.
If it's that addictive and that popular, and it's definitely on that line now, and I can see why. But everyone's always going to walk the line. It's like when P-Flax talked about how that casino, the Rostov casino, is set up on the German-Czech border.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the Germans come over to get their prostitution and gambling on, even though it's illegal in their country. Blah blah blah. Everything. Everyone always pushes the fucking lines to the limit, don't they? And I think it's inevitable that we are going to see these things get regulated in some way, but government is slow to move, and I've got a lot of complaints about this.
I think the problem is that the solution is a tricky one, because some games, like honestly, some games having the loot boxes, which you pay and you spin and you get it, it's fine. I honestly think it's fine. If you look at something like Hearthstone, I think it's fine. Dota, I think it's fine. It works because it's cosmetic. In most cases, you can earn the cards just by being good at the game. You can still play the game. And with Dota, it has no effect. It's like you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on hats in Team Fortress or Dota or anything like that.
Of course
some people will. Some people will, that's for sure.
I don't think Hearthstone is okay.
Why don't you think it's okay?
I think Hearthstone is okay. And I think it's okay in the sense that trading card games have existed for a long time. And it's kind of the same as like sticker books and like Panini sticker packs. Remember those?
Right.
They still do them.
Yeah, you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You can still buy that
you would
shit.
often get doubles and stuff. I think the thing that with Hearthstone is that there's no ability to trade cards, duplicate cards with your friends and stuff like that. I feel like if they had something like that, then it would be totally fine. The fact is, like, all of these games, stickers included, trading card games, Magic, all of that have been around for years, and there's never really been much of a problem in the fact that you get a pack of cards. You don't know what's in that pack. Sometimes you'll get some really good, sometimes you won't or whatever. But the way that Hearthstone is designed is that there's always a handful of decks that are very, very good, and some of them cost a lot to craft in the first place. So to be competitive, you have to spend a ton of money in Hearthstone.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
they often say of Hearthstone, the most important card in the game is your credit card, which is true. It's so true though, because a lot of these decks are expensive. If you want to be competitive, you want to play on the ladder and stuff. You need the cards to make these decks. They're not cheap to make. They're hard to find as well.
And they keep bringing out new cards, right? That's the other thing.
And that's the thing. They have a new set every couple of months. And if you're wanting to be competitive, for streamers and stuff like that, it's a little bit different. They get given a big bunch of packs of cards at the start of expansion anyway. Plus, for them to just buy cards and stuff, they're doing it for a living, so it's not a huge thing. If you're a casual player who works a normal job and you get home and you have a couple of hours to spare in the evening and you're playing this game, to actually be competitive, you're looking at it's $500 per expansion or something stupid like that.
Crazy.
It's well far and beyond the price of a game or an expansion.
Exactly. If Hearthstone literally had a price tag of 200 quid, everyone will balk at that. But because it's not, it's kind of this more insidious kind of it's free, but then you end up spending 200 quid.
Yeah,
it's kind of tough, and I don't know. It's kind of easier to not realize that you're spending so much money if it's done in a more insidious way. I guess it's kind of, but I understand why. I understand that sometimes people want to earn stuff, and I think that if you play Hearthstone all the time, you never have to spend any money. I know people who basically have never really
they
spent
just
any
do
money
arena.
They're
just really good at
they
arena.
They do the arena.
Yeah.
They do the quests every day and blah blah blah, and then they end up not having to pay for the expansion or whatever. But I think it's very very close. I think you have to do the quests every day. You have to play a lot, and then you're
here's
actually
the problem I think that people have with pay to win, which Battlefront and stuff like that is. I mean, the game fucking costs a fortune in the first place. So that's one of my issues is if people are saying it's unfair, don't buy the game. Literally, that's the best way to change this is to not buy the game.
Yeah.
Don't buy the game and complain about it. Don't buy the fucking game if you disagree with the way it's done. The thing is, if some people still go ahead and do it, EA are going to keep doing this. People are going to keep doing it. So I think you can raise the issue and say, by the way, if you buy this game, this is what's going to happen, and you're going to have to pay all this money to unlock this, that, and the other. And EA have certainly, made some noises like they're going to do something about it. Didn't they change the amount that it takes to grind up? But then it turned out you earned less from the quests or whatever. So they've obviously got themselves stuck in a situation where they've spent a fortune developing this game. It's got a very high price point, and they're expecting to make a fucking fortune off it. And this is the best they could come up with. But we were saying, all they have to do is have cosmetics. You can play all the heroes, you have all the weapons or whatever. But if you want to have the cool Stormtrooper armor, or if you want your TIE Fighter to be Darth Vader's TIE Fighter instead of a basic TIE Fighter, or you want your lightsaber to be rainbow colored, or you want your lasers to be red instead of green or whatever, you can buy that.
Yeah.
People will fucking go for it. I mean, look at fucking, what's it called?
Overwatch.
Fuck me. Yeah, Overwatch.
Yeah.
It's all cosmetic shit.
It is. It is all cosmetic. There's no hero unlocks. There's nothing like that in Overwatch, to be fair.
Yeah, and so I think I'm much less worried about that.
Yeah, the fact that you can buy these boxes, though, does tap into people's, some of them, some of the events that are run only run for a certain amount of time, okay? So if you're in a spot in your life where you're not able to actively play, because it's quite easy to actually get these boxes for free if you play for a couple hours a day or whatever. But let's say the Halloween event runs for 2 weeks, and you just haven't been able to play that much. And there's going to be there's about 10 or 15 skins that are exclusive to that event, which are unobtainable after that event. So you have to either play a lot during the event or buy loot boxes in hopes of getting them.
I like what you just said, which is really, really interesting. Okay, you said you don't have to play very much, just a couple of hours a day, right? If you did anything else for a couple of hours a day, like if you played the piano for a couple of hours a day, or wrote a book you would fucking make so much progress in your life. Whereas Overwatch, you just need to do that as the bare minimum to get your game on, and and I think it taps into other areas of our personality too, right? And these games also do have other things other than loot boxes. Like EA on this Battlefront 2, it has some cooldowns, so you have to wait for 3 hours before you can play arcade mode again and get any credits off that again. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, right.
It's got all of these other stupid shit that's in mobile games. It's like, oh yeah, you've run out of stamina. Come back tomorrow.
God.
Use your stamina.
That sounds
or
terrible.
you could buy more stamina now. It's like it's bullshit. It's like it's got all of that shit in, and it's a contagion of devices that have been found to be addictive, and it's creeping into common AAA games. Like it used to be, I guess, stuck to mobile games, but mobile games I think are even more exploitative because they're played more by casually. I mean, the word casual, I mean, certainly doesn't describe 2 hours of Overwatch a day, but you think it might. It's like, I'm a casual Overwatch player. I play a couple of hours a day.
Yeah.
That is like a lot of hours a day. That's not casual, at all.
That's definitely more time than I spend masturbating a day, that's for sure.
I don't know. It's less time than I'd like to spend masturbating.
I wish I had the stamina to masturbate for about 2 hours a day. That'd be great.
2 hours
You
a
spend
day.
2 hours a day smashing up that car outside your front door and slowly eating it.
I'd fuck
Yeah,
a Spitfire. That's what I'd do.
I'd fuck it too, yeah.
Fuck that Spitfire.
I think it was a Cessna. I don't think it was a Spit. I couldn't find it when I googled it originally. I think it was a Cessna.
As a thank you to all of our brave boys back in World War II today, I am fucking a Spitfire.
That's what I did on Remembrance Sunday. I thought it was
Oh my god.
fuck the plane.
Oh god.
I went to Remembrance. I went to Remembrance Sunday. My kids are in the brownies and the rainbows and stuff, so they marched along
The rainbows?
Yeah. That's like the one below brownies.
Oh right, okay.
Like so, it's like for the boys, it goes beavers, cubs.
Yeah.
Scouts, Venture Scouts, right?
Oh, I didn't even know
whatever
there was anything above Scouts. I thought that
Yeah.
was like the top of the pile.
I think they call it something other than Venture Scouts now. It's got
Right.
some other name. But anyway, so for the girls, it goes rainbows, brownies, guides, and then whatever there is after that.
Girl guides.
Right? No, that the guides is the girl guides, right? That's
Oh.
the
It depends on the country as well.
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
it?
This is UK. Okay.
Okay,
And in
alright.
fact, this might just be England. I don't know what they do in the colonies. So we've got the rainbows, which is very sweet. They've got the uniform and they do all this stuff, and it's quite light. They just play. And then the brownies, they start doing badges and they have like a sash and all this kind of shit. But I thought it was quite funny. We marched along with service personnel and veterans and like this band, and I'm like, why are we? And I remember when I was a cub, we did the same thing. Why are we associated with people who've served in war and like the armed forces and people that wear a uniform? And they're veterans. They've been in the trenches, or they've been, they've flown a Spitfire that someone hasn't eaten. They've done all this, and then you've got a bunch of girls from the brownies and the rainbows marching with them as well. And I thought it was kind of weird, but then I thought about the fact that a lot of this kind of stuff started off not as a kind of paramilitary thing for kids, but as a way to prepare them for the military,
wasn't the
right?
Hitler Youth is basically what you're trying to say.
It's just
but-
kind of weird to see. You've got all these guys with all their medals, some real old lads, some guys who've obviously been in a war and suffered an injury, and then you've got my daughters in the brownies and the rainbows marching along behind them like, yay, Remembrance Sunday. And I'm like, it's kind of weird, but it was kind of
Well,
sweet.
it's very good though. Like it's a very. I remember being in the Scouts, and obviously like Baden Powell founded it, and he was a classic English upper class. Well,
these boys must learn some discipline.
Go and play in the dirt and find the enemy for me, son.
Yeah,
it's like,
that kind of
he was
stuff.
a classic mad old Englishman.
But
I guess
they love it. They absolutely love it. And I mean, they kind of, when we did the Remembrance thing, we're all lining up. It was very solemn. It was quite moving. The weather was fucking shocking, which everybody was kind of stoic in the face of this freezing wind and rain, which was good to see. And we were all lined up and everything. But like you were talking just before we started recording about how little kids at around 2.5, they become absolute monsters, right? There's this one fucking kid in a pushchair who's just losing his shit, and everyone, it's just during the 2 minute silence, everybody is silent. Like everybody, it's like completely silent in Twickenham. And there's this one kid just screaming, "Oh, my baby!" like that because he wanted something. And it's like, somebody shut that fucking kid up. Like the parent is just going shh, shh, just trying to shut him up. Oh, it's horrible. It's just It's the
Just
worst
a grizzled
thing.
old veteran
that's-
with a missing leg rolls
doing
over to the
a
kid in his
tear.
wheelchair, gently leans in. I didn't fight for this.
Yeah, exactly. I take it back.
Shut the
I
hell
take
up,
my
you
service
little
back. I wish I hadn't saved you. Yeah. It's just so, so depressing.
stomp all over this godforsaken country.
Hitler wouldn't have allowed this crying, I tell you that.
Oh, fuck their nightmares when they're two, though. Shit me.
And
Fuck.
there's no reasoning with them. There's none.
No, there's none. They just
no reasoning.
They have an idea in their mind, and if it doesn't go completely according to plan, they just fucking melt down, and that
Yeah.
is it. And so you're constantly just trying to prevent them from melting down. So you're just trying to pacify them at all times.
Yeah.
Skirt around them and stuff. Get their mind off whatever it was that they decided that they were going to do. Like, they're fixated on putting their like tongue into a wall socket.
Yeah.
And the minute you try to take them away from that, they just fucking go nuts because they have no emotional capacity or no way of sort of dealing with anything.
Yeah.
And then, so the only way that you can realistically get them away from that is by sort of showing them something that's more interesting. So that's when you sort of like start huffing gas out of your car and hope that they come away from the socket, come over to the car, and then you have to sort of convince them that that's not the best idea. So it's just like this really sinister game of like,
you're just running from
Yeah.
pillar to post trying to entertain a fucking arsehole is basically what it is.
it's crazy, isn't it?
So your 2-year-old, I mean, are you just like a big super clown at the moment? Do you like just dance
Well,
for her
so the
enjoyment?
other,
Or how does it work?
day I came into the house, okay, and like sometimes I don't like going into the house at the best of times, but I had to, okay, I had to go to the bathroom. I was out here in the garage, I was streaming, I was playing some XCOM, I was having a nice time and stuff, and we got to like a natural point in the game where I was like, okay, listen, I gotta take a break, I gotta go to the bathroom, so in I went, put the stream on pause, put some music on for the boys, and went in to do my business, opened the door, and everybody's home, right? My son, my daughter, and my wife are all in the kitchen, and they're getting ready to go outside. My wife wanted to like go outside and put some stuff on the washing line. We have a trampoline, so the kids were going to go play on the trampoline and stuff.
I mean, even going out into the garden seems like it's going to be like a long
It's a fucking,
process
it's
to
a
get ready
massive
for.
ball ache. Okay, so
The fact that's
so
amazing.
I walk into the house at this point in time, okay, and my wife's like, "Oh, we were just about to go outside. I'm going to go put some stuff on the line, and the kids are going to jump on the trampoline." And my son was just like going nuts, like dancing around the kitchen. He was excited and stuff, and my daughter was like pretty excited as well. But you could see that she was just in the corner getting really fucking frustrated about something. So I looked down, and she's got rubber boots on, but they're on the wrong feet, and she knows it. And she's about to have a fucking meltdown, okay? So I was like, oh, let me help you with that. So, I went in, got on my knee, got right down there to help her, was just reaching towards a rubber boot to help her, and she was like getting increasingly agitated by this, okay? Just starts going nuts and slapped me in the face so fucking hard. It was crazy. So I just got up and I was like, well, fuck. I bitterly regret coming into my own house at this point now.
Jesus.
I almost just went right back outside and pissed in a shrub. But instead, I just like stormed upstairs and went to the bathroom.
She's just like her mother.
My wife got like really mad at our baby. And
She slapped you on the way out.
No, she didn't. She was like, oh my goodness. And then, we had the whole thing about like how it's so difficult to do simple things and stuff because like, the kids are having a meltdown and everything. So we had to put my daughter in her bed for 5 minutes, to sort of say like, it's not right to hit people and you shouldn't be having a meltdown just because you put your boots on the wrong feet in the first place and stuff. And so she was crying the whole time. She doesn't like being put in her bed because she knows when she's been bad. This is the hilarious thing, okay? She has no ability to cope with anything whatsoever, but she knows when she's been bad. And that makes her frustrated as well. And she gets all upset and everything. So the whole thing is just like a big shitstorm brewing at all times. And we really have to just be careful and delicately tiptoe around my daughter, like for the time being, until she's about 3. And then things sort of even out a little bit. They're more reasonable and stuff. They have less tantrums. But yeah, they call it terrible twos for a reason. And holy shit.
Yeah, they do.
Man,
Can I just make one teeny tiny suggestion? I'm not trying to backseat parent. It's just a suggestion.
Okay.
Is when you're putting hers in like the naughty step kind of area, don't make it somewhere where you actually want her to stay at other times.
Oh yeah,
right?
I know.
So
I mean,
like putting her in her bed is to me is not a great idea. Like we just to put him in a corner.
It's not a great idea, but to put it in context, I think in her life we've done it twice.
Okay.
And it's just because there's nowhere else to put her because we can't force her to like sit on a step or anything like that.
No, you
because
absolutely
she'll just
can.
get up and my son will just come over and like make fun of her and stuff.
No,
like,
you've got it. Like the step is the key because the point is it's not somewhere you ever want them to sit.
You've been watching Super Nanny, haven't you?
No, dude.
That is a Super Nanny thing.
I naughty step to my kids until quite recently. They don't need it anymore. Like they genuinely don't. Now I just sort of send them away. Go to your room. Like I don't want to talk to you.
Well, they're
sort
like
of thing.
7 and 5, aren't they?
Right. But the point is, when they were
older.
little, the step was the big thing, and it does take some time, and it's quite a lot of hard work to get them to get it. But eventually, every time they get off, you just say, right, that's another 2 minutes. And however old they are, that's how long they have to stay there. Because 2 minutes to a 2-year-old is fucking eternity.
Yeah.
So you've just got to be consistent with it. But it does work. It really fucking works.
We barely ever, rarely have to punish our kids. Like, I think I've sent my son to his room once.
Yeah.
And it was just because he was just, like, adding fuel to the fire where my daughter was just, like, having a meltdown as well. He was like teasing her and stuff, and like we were both
the worst.
Like, pretty mad at him. Yeah, so we sent him to his room, but for the most part, just the threat of punishment is enough for my kids.
Yeah,
which is
it
great.
really is. Yeah,
and with my daughter, she doesn't really understand. Like sometimes we threaten her. We say you're gonna go to your bed, and she'll stop or whatever. But actually, the most effective threat for my daughter is. We say that we're going to go get somebody else's baby and bring them over and change them and stuff instead. And she gets jealous and then she complies.
God.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's so funny. So like we know like obviously through like school and stuff, we know other moms, we know their kids and stuff like that. So like, we'll be like, all right, come and lay down, have your diaper changed. She'd be like, no. She'd start running away and be, all right, well, I'm gonna go ask Henry's mommy if Henry could come over and have his diaper changed then. And then she
You're
just
not gonna like it when Jessica's lying here.
She completely just like, oh, I don't want that to happen. She comes over and lays down. It's hilarious.
But she doesn't even know why. Like she doesn't know why.
She just knows that Henry is not coming over to have his diaper changed. Not when there's another baby in the house. It's so funny.
Man.
And then with my son now as well, it's so easy because if he's acting up or whatever, because we have a Switch and we got Mario Odyssey and he fucking loves it, okay? Like he gets so excited when we play it and stuff. Even like the mention of it. Like yesterday my wife went out for the evening like to see a movie with one of her friends. Like the rare occasion she actually ever gets to do something like with other adults and not like with kids or whatever. So I was babysitting. And when I babysit, it's like, again, you're constantly tiptoeing around like these potential meltdowns and stuff. So I let them both stay up because I thought there's no way I'm putting them to bed because it's just going to be a shit show or whatever. They can just stay up. So earlier in the day, I said to my son, Mom's going to be going to a movie tonight. You want to play some Mario later? And he's like, even then, holy shit, he almost lost it. Like he almost shit his pants. He was so excited. Like we were walking outside at the time. And then like he's just like so excited to play it. But it's great because now I can be like, if ever there's any trouble, I can be like, well, I know you like Mario and it'd be a real shame if you never got to play it again. You're just like completely straight away like, oh, I better stop doing this. Like,
I use the Xbox as a threat a lot. My kids have an Xbox. They play Minecraft on it. And they play Stardew Valley on it and stuff. And the other week, my eldest was being an absolute bitch, if I'm honest with you. She was being really unpleasant. And I was like, all right, if you keep doing this, when we get home, I'm going to take the Xbox out into the garden and smash it with a hammer, and I'm going to make you watch me do it. And I said, and my wife was nodding like, he'll do it. He will do it. And I would 100% do it. Because they were dicking around before Remembrance Sunday, right? They were kind of clowning around. And I said, like, before we went out, I said, if you guys mess around today, of all days, if we're out there and I have to tell you guys off because you're messing around, you won't shut up, you're dancing around or whatever, I am going to smash that Xbox One to pieces. And I would have done it with joy because I'm a PC master race. I hate consoles anyway. So it wouldn't have been a problem. But I would have made them watch. They both knew. They looked into my eyes. They were testing. Is he joking? Is he serious? Fucking 100%. They could see. This guy is crazy. He's crazy enough to do it.
He's got that look in his eyes. He's going to do it.
And they did. They behaved. They were gold.
But the thing is, they have to learn this, right? They're a blank slate, right? They have to learn what their boundaries can be and how far they can push it. Because that's what you do when you're a kid. Like, you want to know how far you can push things. Because all you want to do is clown around and do dumb shit. And you have to push it and push it and push it and see how far they let you take it.
Yeah,
and
they all do it.
That's it. It's just a part of they have to learn their boundaries.
How else do you know the boundaries of society unless you've grown up
and
being told what they are? Like, otherwise,
it's part of their learning experience, even though they might be acting out and all this stuff. It's part of their education. It's as important as everything else.
When you're an adult, if you're at work and you're in your business suit and you're playing up or whatever, and your boss isn't happy with it, he's not going to smash your Xbox. He's going to smash your wife. He's gonna smash her good. And then what are you gonna do? So you have to learn to like not clown around too much in life, because it's just not the point you want to be at.
You'll get your wife smashed. Yeah,
you're gonna get your wife smashed up.
We're doing a very serious podcast here, guys. This is some very
Can you
serious
imagine
stuff.
if your boss called you into his office? He was like, Chris, not been happy with your sales figures in the last quarter, and the quarter before that actually was bad. I see a downward trend. We're very unhappy. So I brought your wife in here, and I'm gonna fuck her right in the pussy, and you're gonna watch me.
And you're looking at him in the eyes, and you know he's deadly serious.
And she's looking at you like, he's right, Chris. He's right. Consider this a performance review.
Oh my god, that would be something else. The threat of it would be enough. Like, we wouldn't need the wife to be right there.
Yeah,
you know.
I'll fuck your wife in this office. And you'll have to watch me. Yeah, no, it's all right. I'll bring my sales figures up, please.
So I missed The Apprentice this week. Chaps.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't see
right.
it. Yeah, I mean, I watched the one last week. Did I tell you guys? I told you guys about the one last week with the tour guide and stuff like that.
You got very
but
angry.
I did not watch it this week, sadly, so I don't know what's happened. We're gonna watch it tonight, apparently.
Cool story, bro.
Last night,
cool
yeah.
story.
So I'll have to keep you guys updated on The Apprentice next week instead for the Triforce podcast.
Oh, actually, you know what? Talking of The Apprentice, right? And talking of like bringing on a sort of bringing people in as an apprentice or perhaps as a guest. This is a cheap segue, but I wanted to do it. I was in the pub the other night. And someone said to me they really wanted to be on the Triforce podcast. And I thought, we've only ever had one guest. It was Duncan last Christmas, right?
Wasn't even really invited. He was just there.
He was just there. But I thought if we did a Triforce Live over Christmas, we could have a guest in. Just as a once annual thing, we get a guest in.
Yeah, I'd be up for that.
Yeah. It was
Shin.
It was Shin. Shin basically begged me to be on the Triforce podcast.
Why though? Why does he want to be in it so much?
He just does.
Right.
I mean, I know Terps desperately wants to be in the Triforce podcast, but
Terps
this
wants
is
to be in everything.
Terps wants
He can't
to be
help
in
himself.
everything.
He loves it. He's a very sociable man. He's got a lot to
This
say.
is an elite. This is an elite
minute.
crew, though. You know, we can't be having regular guests.
That's the thing. I feel like, you know, like when people are desperate, it turns me off. It just, you know, like I feel like, you know what? No, now I'm thinking not even annually. Let's just keep it tight, boys. Like we don't need anyone else on our podcast.
We need there's no voting here. We all agree, or it doesn't happen.
It's an exclusive. In my opinion, it's an exclusive club. And honestly, I think if we're gonna get any guests on, we should get like real outside guests though. I've said this before, let's try to get Conan O'Brien on our podcast. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, that would be
what
amazing.
I mean? Let's get somebody who we've never spoken to before, so we'd have some fresh questions for them and stuff, and it would be really good. We see Shin every day. I love the guy, but man, I don't know what I'm going to talk to him about. Literally, I talk to him every day.
You don't know what you're going to talk to us about, Christ.
Yeah, but we that's the standard of our conversations. We talk about whatever comes into our head, and that's that. If you had a guest, they better be fucking astounding as a guest.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So one of the other things I did this week was I listened to a podcast called Dirty John, right? So it's a little bit like Shit Town. Did you ever listen to that podcast?
I've heard of Shit Town, yeah.
It's quite good.
You told me about it, I think.
Yeah, it's a short 8 or 9 episode kind of true crime, true life sort of podcast done by done pretty well done. It's like short. It's like a one-off. It feels like to me like a bumper news article in the form of kind of or a small documentary in the form of an audio book sort of thing. And they're usually quite long, like longer than a documentary. A documentary would be like an hour and a half of the highlights, and this one's it's often like lots of interviews with people, lots of chatting with real people who were there at the time, and they work harder to build up the character. And like why he was so weird or whatever. And man, it was a good podcast. I recommend you check it out. If you haven't listened to S-Town or Dirty John, check them out.
John.
They're good podcasts. It's about this guy who's kind of gets involved with this woman, but he's just this most prolific bullshitter. And just weird and just horrible, and man, it's cool. It's a cool story, and it's pretty scary, but I liked it. I like this true crime stuff. I like watching these movies. I've been watching The Sinner on Netflix as well.
Any good? Because people were talking about it last night in the pub, and I'd seen it. I know Mrs. F is starting watching it, but what's the dealio?
I don't want to sort of spoil it really in a way. Like the thing is, if you read these like synopsis of stuff, they tend to like spoil something at the start. Do you know what I mean? Like the first episode is almost fair game for spoilers for like the blurb. But it's
give me some. Is it set in space? Is it set in the past? Are they robots?
You recommended Top of the Lake to me. Remember that?
No, I didn't recommend it.
I
said I've been trying to watch it, and it's really fucking hard to enjoy.
Top of the Lake, is that the one with Peggy Olson from Mad Men in it? Oh, okay.
I enjoyed that.
It's okay.
Yeah, I don't like the look of that one.
The characters, I can't fucking understand it. Half the decisions these characters make, their reactions to what's happening around them. I'm like, are they scared? Is this a good or bad thing? Do they feel anything? There's so little acting going on that I can recognize as, okay, I can kind of understand what this person is thinking. Like there's one scene where she goes to this house in the middle of the fucking woods, and she suspects that this guy has committed murder. She just goes alone, just turns up.
I know what you mean.
What the fuck is she doing? This is like, a horror movie, but she displays no fear at all throughout this entire ordeal. It's just kind of a thing that happens, and then she's just down the pub. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? It doesn't make sense. The characters don't make sense to me.
Like, I was reading this thing about Alien, the original Alien movie, and about how one of the best bits about it was that the characters make decisions that you would understand as reasonable for them to make at the time. They are scared of the alien. They're doing their best against the alien, but at the end of the day, they don't make shit. They don't make bad decisions. It's just more powerful than them and smarter and clever, and it fucking.
It killed my entire crew in less than 24 hours. Yeah, it's an alien.
It's a proper predator.
They weren't
Whereas
prepared.
you look at like the latest film, like Covenant. Name a character in the latest Alien movie. It's impossible because it's
Sigourney Weaver.
She's not it.
No.
Of course she isn't. I mean, she's not called Sigourney Weaver either, is she? In flipping the latest one.
I saw Sigourney Weaver recently in an episode of Doc Martin on ITV. Don't ask me why I was watching Doc Martin, but there she fucking was. She was the typical American lost in a small English village, didn't know what she was doing, was kind of having some troubles with the locals and stuff.
What the fuck happened to Sigourney Weaver though? Like, I mean, you don't see her in
nothing, man. She's just aging. She's just getting on with it.
She's like 70.
She did that voiceover in Finding Dory. Hi, I'm Sigourney Weaver. Welcome to Aqualand or whatever it was called. Remember that? She was in that. And
she was in, so she was in 4 movies in 2012, including Cabin in the Woods. Then she did nothing in 2013. She was in one thing in 2014.
She's retired. She's like my mum's age. She doesn't want to be doing movies all the time. She doesn't need to do anything. She could just go to Comic-Con and sign stuff, and
she's
ain't retired.
Fine. She was for instance, she's lined up to be in Avatar 2 and 3, which apparently are coming out. So
the thing is, now, she was in Avatar, wasn't she?
She's like a known sort of like sci-fi actress, right? So now that she's like in her 60s, she's gonna have like the Mon Mothma role in like in future sci-fi movies, right? She's not going to be like the hero or anything. She's going to be like the motherly sort of like, elder sage sort of person, right?
Yeah.
So she'll be an Avatar too, but she'll probably be like the head of the UN or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she'll
But
have
like
a role
she
that.
voiced her like Ripley in the Alien Isolation game. She did the voiceover in that. Like,
Did you know that there are going to be 4 more Avatar movies?
Fuck me.
Stupid,
There's
isn't it?
Avatar 2 and 3 are filming
The
at the moment.
first one was I don't know. Actually, I saw the first one time in the movie theaters, and it was okay. I don't remember
this is
much
how
of it.
far. This is what they've announced. They've announced that 4 movies are being made: Avatar 2, 3, and then two more.
Right.
The 2 and 3 are filming at the moment and are being released before Christmas, so December 18th, 2020,
Yeah.
and
Right.
December 17th, 2021.
Yeah.
Right, and then the 2 other ones will be released in December 2024 and 2025.
God.
I mean, Avatar is a movie about being in the distant future
That's a
anyway,
timeline,
right? But
yeah.
that is a fucking hell of a timeline.
Jeez.
It's like 9 years planned
But
it
do
out.
you know what? I reckon they planned all this shit out when big blockbuster sci-fi was a thing.
Yeah.
Now because of Blade Runner 2049's frankly disastrous box office performance compared to what they thought they'd make, right? It cost a fortune
It was
to
a
make
great
and market.
movie.
It was amazing. I loved it. But they needed to make $400 million to fucking break even on that shit.
Oh God.
Okay? And
I
they
gotta
haven't
see
come
that
close.
actually.
It's great.
Is it
You gotta watch
really, really good?
Yeah, yeah. It's
I'll tell
it's
you what
a-
I saw recently that I just didn't see for whatever reason. I saw Matt Damon's The Martian.
What'd you think?
I fucking liked it a lot.
It was
actually.
good, wasn't it?
I
It was
thought it was
good.
really good. Yeah, it was just a cool idea for a movie. It was one of
It
those.
was a very famous book. I read the book when it
is.
came out a
The
couple of
book
years
is
ago.
okay.
It was a good book. It was well known, the book, though. And
Oh right,
so-
okay. I didn't realize it was based on a book, but anyway, I thought it was perfect for movie format because the story was sort of simple enough to fit into 2 hours. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Sometimes movies feel a bit rushed.
It was a well done movie.
And I think
Yeah.
we're a bit spoiled now with these long ass drama series like HBO, Netflix, and stuff
Yeah,
like
we
that.
expect everything to be
With
fucking 50
everything
hours
in
long.
minute
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
detail and go on forever and stuff.
Well, this
But
is what I was talking about with the podcast, because I really like that long form thing. And a movie has to be something crammed in. And that's why Mad Max, I think, was such a good movie because it was just one big
Fury
action.
Road was fucking awesome. Holy
love
shit,
that.
I love that.
Best movie, one of my best movies of all time. And also, the latest Thor Ragnarok's really good as well.
Oh,
Take yourself
so
seriously.
good.
It's just
So
so
Oh,
it's
is it
just
really good?
Yeah,
It's like
amazing.
going on a roller coaster. Do you know what I mean? And
fuck.
it's
Okay,
fun.
cool. I'll check
it's really
that out.
fun.
Well,
You
I've got
gotta-
to fucking.
But it's
I think
fucking
I'm-
funny. It's like a comedy more than an action movie. It's
But it's directed
so funny.
by the Flight of the Conchords guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh right,
so-
okay. What?
Yeah.
Jermaine
No,
Clement?
not one of the
no.
main guys. Like he was the guy who directed Flight of the Conchords.
Oh
So,
right, him.
yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
he's been in a few things, but he's very funny. He's got a character in the movie. So it's weird because you're watching this Marvel universe and suddenly there's a rock guy called Korg, who's like probably the standout character of the whole film, honestly. And he just has this very normal Kiwi voice. He's like, "Hi, my name's Korg. I'm made of rock." He's like just this guy.
Nice.
It's just like it's just funny. It's like Thor is kind of a clowny character in it rather than being this brooding superhero type. He's just like a goofy
It doesn't
guy.
take itself seriously, and that
Not
makes
at
it
all.
very, very good.
Well, I mean,
It's very
Deadpool
funny.
was very good too. I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was another one that didn't take itself seriously at all, which was pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So yeah, well, I'll check that out. I'm not usually
Good.
big into superhero movies. Like a lot of them just don't appeal to me at all. But
No, me
like,
neither. Me
Same.
neither. Like I really
Deadpool
didn't
I
like
liked.
Doctor Strange.
What?
Guardians of the Galaxy is really good though.
Doctor Strange was really good.
I didn't like Doctor Strange
Oh,
actually.
you
I enjoyed
suck.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 though. That was good. But Thor Ragnarok, check it out, Sips.
Yeah,
It's worth a look.
check
'cause
out
it's
Thor.
just-
Well, I think I'm going back to LA like in a couple of weeks for a thing. So I'll have some time to watch movies on the flight. So maybe
yeah,
I'll check
I feel
that out.
like with Netflix, long form series and other sort of ways that we digest content now, especially with Netflix and stuff, it feels like movies have to be more of a roller coaster experience. And I think that they are becoming that. I think that the movies that try to adapt too much source material into a small area end up fucking it up.
Yeah.
And so it turns out to not be great. But The Martian, I think it did it okay. It was a
I
long,
think it was
complicated
pretty
book.
good. I
It was
liked
written
it.
by like an engineer, I think, or
I think it was
NASA
written by.
guy.
I think the guy was on fucking Reddit or something, wasn't he? And he posted it in stages and bits, and it was like published a few chapters at a time, and he kind of basically self-published this book that was a big hit. But
that's pretty cool.
But you know, the weird thing is, I read about how much he got paid, I think, for the rights to the movie. And I always assume if you've written a book that's like a massive hit and somebody decides to make a movie of it, you're going to make a shitload of money.
Yeah.
But you really don't.
No, like the guy,
like unless you're like J.K. Rowling or something, you don't really make a lot.
The guy who wrote the Witcher books, like his royalties off the back of The Witcher were like pennies. Like he basically didn't get paid anything.
It's weird.
Because he just like I read this article. He just thought like video games were dumb. He didn't realize the industry was as big as it was. He wasn't confident that like the studio was going to make anything worth anything, sort of thing. So he sold the rights for like $60,000 or something like that. And now The Witcher is just like this multi-million-dollar franchise, like video game.
If I'm ever in that position, I want a percentage. I want a fucking percentage.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, that just goes to show if you're out there and you're writing something right now, make sure that you go for a percentage-based cut in
But
royalties.
apparently, a lot of people they'll just be like, no, we don't do that, and they'll just go do something else.
I'm sure I've said this before, but on the topic of royalties, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Seinfeld, all still massively in syndication everywhere. You know, every time an episode of those shows is aired, they get paid. That's that blows my fucking mind. Like, fucking Larry David still to this day is getting Seinfeld money.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they were so cheap to make as well. They were like the cheapest things in the world to make. It was like a couple of sets, a couple of cameras, like it was just cash money. Like,
that's
honestly,
nuts,
like there was it wasn't $300 million to make fucking Seinfeld, was it? You kidding me?
No, Jesus. I mean, I bet if you added up the costs of every episode of Seinfeld and everything, it was not even going to come close to $300 million to make all that.
But even that, like, I mean, that's part of the reason why, like, they could end up paying people so much. You know, like, back towards the end of Friends, you know, they were saying each of the cast members are getting $1 million an episode.
Yeah.
It's because they never fucking do anything else with the budget.
Yeah.
It's like 3 fucking sets and just
That's
comedy.
it. Yeah, they never have to, like, except for that one time where they went to the UK for like Phoebe's wedding or something.
Sucked. Worst episode.
Or Chandler's wedding or something. That's probably they had to have some budget for that one, but otherwise.
You know what? My kids actually quite like Friends now. So if we're stuck for something to watch, it's always fucking on, right? So I'll stick Friends. I was like, here, watch this. I was like, man, Friends, why the fuck would I want to watch that? I actually laughed my ass off at a joke the other day where Joey, right? You know, Joey?
Yeah, Joey.
He says, well, there's no point talking about it. It's a moo point. And they're like, a moo point? He goes, yeah, you know, like a cow's opinion. It doesn't matter. And I was like, that's fucking funny. Like, that is funny.
That's pretty
It's a
funny,
classic.
yeah.
It's such a classic thing. Obviously, like you could tell that stuff like that is just from the writers' room. Like they've, someone's like, I knew a guy who said this. Like it's a classic misheard thing, isn't it? Like there's tons of those as well. Man, that's a good one.
It's funny, like how back in the '80s, I remember growing up, and like I guess this is the case for us now with shows like Frasier, Seinfeld. Stuff that's still kicking around that was on like a long time ago. But I remember in the 80s when I was growing up, my dad used to watch like probably the same way that I watch Frasier now occasionally. Like if it's on, I'll have it on and I'll chuckle to it or whatever. But he used to watch like fucking Leave It to Beaver and like I Dream of Jeannie and stuff like that. Because those were like the big shows that
they were the
grew
friends
up watching.
of Seinfeld.
They were
at their
huge
time.
at the time. And then they were still massively in syndication like in the 80s in daytime TV. Like the Munsters, the
Gilligan's
Addams Family.
Island.
Gilligan's Island. All the oldies.
There's no adult humor there. There's nothing dangerous. You know, if your 5-year-old watches it, it's not going to be a problem. You know, they're very much sitcom family shows that are just there's nothing wrong with them. You know, and that's it's okay. It's not like it challenges you, but it doesn't have to sometimes. So it's like bread. It's like white rice. You know,
remember
it's
Roseanne? That show was fucking awesome. And I don't know if they show it. They never show it on TV over here.
No,
anyway.
they do from time to time. They did recently. Channel 4 ran the whole series of Roseanne again. It is such a fucking good show, man.
There's definitely a cutoff for that show, though. When Dan wins the lottery, that show just became
awful.
total fucking garbage. But
so here's a show. Here's a show.
Awesome.
Sips. Do you remember a show called Soap?
Soap.
Soap.
It rings a bell, actually.
It was prime time. It was a huge show. in the late 70s, early 80s. It was massive, right? Absolutely massive. And it was nuts. I watched some of it recently. It's fucking terrible. But at the time, it was like this huge sort of. It was like a big fucking deal. It really. But you watch it now, it's like awful, absolutely awful. So, like you said about those shows that age, Soap doesn't get fucking rerun.
I remember,
you know what I mean?
I remember growing up, there's a couple of shows that really stand out where I remember my parents were watching them, and I'm sure that like there was a lot of fuss around them, but I was too young to really realize like at the time. Dallas was one of them. I remember Dallas just was like on all the time.
It was
I don't know
fucking
if
huge.
my mom watched it or something, but like I remember it being like it was a really big deal, and then. I distinctly remember the theme music from the original Twin Peaks as well when that came out. I think my parents must have watched it.
Well, Dallas got revived,
and a lot of
didn't
people were like talking about it at the time and stuff. And it was only like years later that like I picked up a box set for it because it was like I was reading some reviews on it, and you know everybody was like going nuts about it, saying how awesome it was and stuff. So I picked it up. I didn't know like what to expect, and then the opening music started, and I was like, "Oh fuck, this is crazy!" My parents used to fucking watch this when I was like really small, and like I remember this music, and I never knew what it was for, sort of thing. It was just like one of those moments where like it all makes sense, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was really strange, but yeah, it's really weird, I guess. So now we're watching these old shows like Seinfeld and Frasier and stuff, the same way that our parents watched like those other old ass shows that probably nobody watches anymore. Like, when was the last time you saw the Munsters on TV?
God,
like, I don't think anybody watches that shit anymore.
Yeah, not a thing.
Or Gilligan's Island.
I mean, if it's black and white, it's
like,
going to be a bit risky.
A bit hard,
to put on. I think people just turn off because it's black and white. But there are some black and white movies that are like incredibly worth watching, like 12 Angry Men and stuff.
Old episodes of Coronation Street.
Yeah. Holy crap. Well, let's end the podcast here on a random, just as a random time.
Before we leave,
go on.
We're on Sex Pest Watch 2017. 2017 has claimed another victim. I don't know if you guys have heard about poor Louis C.K. now with his problems.
Wait. He's not the victim, dude.
Problems
That's the point.
exposing himself and masturbating in front of women now, apparently. So he's had all of his careers in the toilet now. All of his movies and shows have been canceled and stuff. So that's another. He was
literally
he's
one
not
of
a
my
victim. I know.
But it's claimed another. It's another scalp.
It's claimed another person. Yeah. It's anyway.
That is fucking nuts. Of all the people, Louis
it is
fucking
nuts,
CK.
isn't it? Yeah. I never thought that Louis C.K. would be next on the chopping block, but. There you go. So
do you know what? What the selfish thing I feel about this stuff is? I'm always like, I'm not thinking, man, I hope some more people haven't been abused. The selfish part of me is saying, please don't let it be someone that I know or someone that I really admire. Like, please don't let it be Eddie Howe, the Bournemouth manager. You know, so he's a really good manager. Please don't let me know that Eddie Howe's been touching the kids.
Please don't let Liz Hurley be like a serial sex pest who.
No, I'd fucking take that, Liz Hurley. You kidding me? That gives me a shot. That gives me a chance. I just hang around with her, look a little drunk. I'll wake up at a party with Liz Hurley on top of me. You want this, don't you? I was like, yes, I do, Liz.
Come on.
I'm just saying.
I mean, Louis C.K., I remember reading this thing before that someone wrote about him, which was like, I think it was a female person was in his writer's room, and he'd just
a female person. Wow.
A female writer had been in his writer's room, and he'd been like a complete asshole to her or something like this. So I think like I was a bit on the fence about Louis C.K. before. After I read all that stuff, I sort of thought, he does strike me as the kind of guy who might actually be a bit of a problem. But man, I mean,
dude. Yeah. So is there any coming back from this stuff though?
Yeah,
like
I think so. Do you know what? Because I think people really like Louis C.K. And I think
I think also he's funny enough to think of a way to come back and apologize and still be funny.
I don't know.
He'll have to talk about it. He'll have to talk about it.
Richard Pryor coming back after lighting himself on fire in a cocaine haze is funny. Okay,
yeah.
Like it's self-deprecating enough to be fucking hilarious. Okay, and the thing is, like, what he was doing was pretty controversial, I suppose, like at the time or whatever. But you know what I mean? It didn't.
He was the one who was affected.
It was him doing it to himself, right?
Yeah.
And I suppose that's a lot more understandable than somebody claiming victims through their behavior,
Yeah, yeah.
left, right, and center sort of thing. So I don't know. I'm not sure I agree. I don't know if he does come back from this.
I reckon
actually.
he comes back.
I think he'll definitely be
it's not like
tainted
Rolf
for the rest
Harris.
of his...
Rolf Harris ain't coming back. You know what I mean? There's
No,
no way
yeah.
that dude's going to do Animal Hospital again.
Oh, fuck me, man.
But I
Can you
could imagine Louis C.K.
Imagine serving time at the age of 80. Like, fuck me. That's crazy. What the hell?
Yeah.
It all caught up to him in the end.
Yeah.
Old Rolf and his stupid fucking saw-bending
His
music
stupid
making
boomerang-shaped dick.
didgeridoo
are
playing
we going to
ass
end every
motherfucker.
podcast with a new Sex Pest watch?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell
Until they
you,
stop
the way things are
pesting.
going, they're getting caught left, right, and center. So it gives us
Who's going to
something
be in it next week?
concrete. Well, that's the joy of it.
Let's have a
Who
little
fucking
prediction.
knows?
Who do we think it's going to be? Little
Prince
prediction.
Charles.
I don't think we can do this. This is going to get us into trouble. That's certainly going to get us into trouble. We're going to have to bleep that. All right, we're going, everyone. Thank you very much.
All
Goodbye.
right. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.